Today we're breaking down my favorite edit I've ever done, and it was for Under Armour. Recently I was in Florida for an entire week filming the Under Armour All-American football game. Now around the game there were festivities, practices, and this recap video that I did was pretty much everything that happened earlier on during the week, encapsulated into one video to promote the game, which this was posted the morning of the game to get people to watch it on ESPN. So starting out, if you haven't seen it, this is the video that we're going to be breaking down.
We coming with some fire, man.
10 ice on top, man. This ain't a hoe, this ain't a foe. Grind never stopping, I'm keeping it cold. Unlocking the door with the holy key. You supposed to be this close to me, and hopefully.
Why you ain't got none of ice? You too icy, man.
We go.
They been doing all that talking just for them to get melted.
I know the king, follow his lead.
D-line finna go crazy.
I know they lurking, this serpent is circling, but I never worry.
Hey, man, what happened when you put ice on fire? It burn out, right? Fire, man, ice on it!
So I hope you want to hear more about it, and let's talk about that first shot to begin. When I do these edits, I try and make some kind of hook. Now, we all know the hook that's in TikToks whenever it's a talking head video where you say something that catches their attention within the first 5 seconds. But the hook in this video is whenever you see the quarterback throw it, and then into the UA next on the football into a one-handed catch. This captures your attention, and you're like, what the heck did I just see, and what is this video? That's a good thing. So how I did this was I got this first shot of the quarterback throwing it, and this is whenever they were running some quarterback drills, scrambling out to the left, made a throw, track the ball whenever he threw it. This was recorded in 4K 120 frames per second. And then the other shot I got was a player making a one-handed catch right here. This was a totally staged shot. This is me asking a quarterback to throw it to a wide receiver and asking the wide receiver to just catch it with one hand. There were some one-handed catches that happened throughout the game, but to make sure that I could shoot it in a specific way that I wanted to, I had to go ahead and stage this so I could track the ball into the player's hand. You only see him catch it for a split second, but that's okay. So the 3D football, and I'll tell you how I did it, but I'm by no means experienced enough to break it all down in a tutorial because this is my first time ever working with any 3D elements. It actually ended up that the DIT that was on site worked for the agency that I was hired by, 3D prints a lot of stuff. And he knew how to make a 3D football. So he had the 3D football, and I asked him to put the Under Armour logo on it. And about 15 minutes later, there it was on my hard drive. So I had to do something with it. Imported into After Effects. One of the nice things that After Effects does is it matches the lighting immediately. And the keyframing is a little bit weird because you're working with the X, Y, and Z axis. And whenever you keyframe one, the ball does not rotate like in a perfect spiral. So that and match cutting the other. Long story short, what I did is I grabbed the quarterback video and the one-handed catch. And then in between them, I put an empty slate of the sky. That's really just cropped in on a shot that I got that I didn't end up using for this. And so before any effects were done, it went throw, sky, catch. Then I went in and I kind of worked backwards. I keyframed the ball so that it would match up the throw, and at the end match up on the catch, and had it look like it was a spiral and then reveals the logo. How I did it was not perfect, but how you sell an effect like this is by adding motion blur and adding different elements like sound design. Actually making the 3D rendering look worse is what helps because you want it to look like you shot it on camera, and all it was you zoomed in on the ball, saw the UA logo reveal, and then the catch. You want it to look like it's one shot, so making it look imperfect was my best bet for this. Now moving on, this right here, if you watched my camera gear for Under Armour video that I released a few weeks ago, was that rig right there. You see around his waist right there. It was a waist mount and what's called a Snorricam, I come to find out. And all it is a waist wrap with a selfie stick coming out and then a 360 camera on the end. So he's running with it and the stick is kind of bouncing up and down, but it's a 360 cam, so it's recording everything. And I just gave it to this wide receiver during practice, told him to run around with it, make a few catches. If he hit it, doesn't matter. Actually ended up breaking this thing through the course of the event. But this was the shot, and you'll see one other one. And I don't love seeing the black hip wrap, but it does kind of look like padding for football, so you can get away with it. Moving on, these two shots right here were the same kind of shot. This one, actually, you could see the Under Armour logo on the mouthpiece, but I doubt you noticed that. And then this one came from the visor back to the player doing something where you could see the UA Next on the gloves. Just a little way of making the edit dynamic, a little match cut, this going backwards, this one also going backwards. I love the detail on the visor, super unique, trying to show the different teams and show the different things that the players got whenever they were playing for the teams. A big thing we were trying to create in this one, and the whole word that people were using for it on the team, was make them have FOMO. Make people that aren't here have FOMO, so they want to watch the event, the younger kids want to play in the event, make it look like this is the best thing that has ever happened before. And I think showing the gear helps that. So going back on the player, seeing the gloves, and there you go. The sun flare helps. That was all in camera. And then coloring, of course. Just adding some contrast, a little LUT. Didn't dive too deep in on the coloring for this, to be honest. Moving on, we have some plays happening here. So for the plays, we obviously want to show what was actually happening. We can't just show all details of the practices. And so right here, you see an interception and then another interception. And these were just two great plays, two of the best shots that I got throughout this entire event. And right here, you see it slow down and then speed up, slow down and then speed up. It's a simple technique that a lot of people use for these recap type videos, for these sizzles is what Under Armour calls them. And so you slow down when the action happens and then speed up to real time or a little bit faster than real time to go into the next clip. It's a little transition that isn't really hard to do. You just go in Premiere, slow down, speed up with the different waveforms and the time remapping. So then you see the player wiggling his finger, and something to call out here is you see the names on the top of the screen each time. This was just a little idea that I had because while I don't keep up super close with these high school players and the top prospects, I was thinking a lot of people do, and a lot of people care about where these guys are going, the top prospects playing against each other in this game. And so how can we incorporate the level of attention to detail that those people have into a video like this? So up top, you see Team Fire and then Ellis Robinson. So I put the team that they were on, so it was either Team Ice or Team Fire, and then the player's name right below. So if somebody wanted to look at it and say, oh, wait, he's on Team Fire. All right, I'm going to be rooting for Team Fire. Oh, he's on Team Ice. Oh, I like Georgia. He's committed to Georgia. So I'm going to root for that team. Just creating some kind of other reason for people to care about the video. You do everything that you can, and having the player's name on there as well helps us have some different brand recognition and tying our name with the players. And so next up, we have some more 3D. Whenever we got the football made, we also had a UA All-America logo made. So I'll fast forward a little bit for you to see it. This right there, that UA All-America logo, we had just like a flat PNG, and then Jung, the DIT, went ahead and he made it into a 3D object. How does he do it? I have no idea, but I wanted to incorporate it into this unique video that I got of one of the quarterbacks walking into practice. Love the pop of orange in this, so I think it was a nice blend with the sky being perfect. This is right before the sunset practice, and some of those sunset shots that I got are some of my favorite shots I've ever captured for Under Armour. But let's just watch this through. That right there is a couple of different things. 3D objects, motion blurring, and Gaussian blurring. So, and a little bit of speed ramping, but keyframing more so than speed ramping. We'll start with how I did the 3D object. So you see it come into frame. As it comes into frame, the subject is in focus. So I keyed the clip to be out of focus whenever the UA Next came in because I want you to be focused on the UA Next. And then you see the UA Next go out of focus as it goes towards him, and now the player's back in focus. It's an easy trick to make it look like this was actually happening and make it look like you were pulling focus and there was a field of view. Not make everything look perfectly in focus because in a real shot, that's not how it happens. You want to make the 3D objects look imperfect, just like that football earlier. So then you see it go behind the player. How I made it go behind the player was by a simple rotoscope, and the rotoscope was just of the player. Worked out perfectly. It was really easy because of how much he's contrasted from that sky. Didn't have to be perfect, really just had to be good right here. I was impressed by how it did around his hair, and you really can't see any imperfections, to be honest. So happy with how that turned out, but you see it blurred out till it goes to him, and it gets a little bit blurry, and you can see it's right behind the subject, but you're clearly focusing on the subject with something else going on in the background. Now, this 3D object, I pivoted so that it would be square with the camera and then rotate back. We want to see the 3D if we can. That's how you set yourself apart. That's how you set this clip apart. And then another thing that I did was I did a 3D scan. I think it's called a NERf scan with the Luma AI tool that I've talked about in the past. I made a whole tutorial on it. It is about making 3D videos with your phone. That's as simple as it is. So I had a player stand still. Let's watch this through before I explain. So you see it go into the sky, come back, and then show you the player. You got like a top down of a player. You have no idea what's even going on here. So let's rewind. This scan that I did of the player, as you see him, he does not move. I had a player stand there holding his gloves out and told him to just stay as still as he can. I walked around with my phone, just took an iPhone video of all the different nooks and crannies of him. Now, was it perfect? Absolutely not. If we zoom into his gloves, the gloves were all messed up, but that's why I had it look like it actually does in this video. You hide the imperfections. You even see in the background here, it doesn't know exactly what the background looks like, so it clone stamps everything in, but it works out because I want it to be focused on the player. I don't want it to be focused on the background. And so whenever I scanned him, I'm going to the back of him, the helmet, the gloves, I'm going to his jersey, getting all the different Under Armour logos, do the best I could. I only had a minute to do it, and I actually ended up doing it in the game, and at 30 seconds, this is what you get with something like 30 seconds, a cool transition. They ended up using it for the Under Armour recap. Happy that they used it, but it wasn't perfect because I didn't have that long to scan him. But for this one, like I said, I scanned him and then I keyed it to go from the sky to a top down, and then it went towards the player. You can see it go towards the player just a little bit before we go to that fire transition. And so the match cut happens whenever you zoom in, and this just with a simple keyframe. Zoom into the sky, and then you match it. You see the match happen right there. I blended it pretty well. Really messed with the colors there, but you see it. And then it comes down to a top down of the player. And the reason I did a top down is because this is not a perspective that you're used to seeing. When have you ever seen a top down of a football player? I don't know. And we weren't flying drones there. So I had to just use this to get something more unique. It's not as simple as me just like looking at the details on the player, because realistically I could do that with my camera in 4K and make it look better. But went from the top down, so you're like, what the heck am I watching? And then into a transition. If you're curious about how I did that whole scan, I'll link the tutorial below of how you can do those 3D scans with people. I did it with a stadium in that tutorial. You can do it whatever. It's all the same technique. It's really easy to do. And then we go into the fire transition. So let's watch this through. Fire to ice. Ice cube explodes. You see a player. A lot going on here. A lot going on. So let's start with this. So this fire transition here was from this website. It's called RenderForest. So we had this fire logo, and all it was a very simple, not animated PNG of a fire emoji. And this online software allowed you to animate different logos, which I'll talk more about that later in this video because there's a more relevant part. But you will see a couple different things, and I'll point them out as we go along. But this, from the fire to the ice, fire, and then you zoom in on the ice cube, and the ice cube explodes. Step by step, this is how I did this. So this is a video of a player with these fake ice cubes that we had. They're just plastic ice cubes from Amazon. Drop them, and I didn't even track the ice cube as it goes down. I recorded in 120, so it would be in slow-mo, and then you see the ice cube fall. What I did then is I keyframed into one of the ice cubes, and I tracked it a few frames. So you see those couple of frames where it's perfectly centered. All that is, in Premiere, tracking one by one. And then I got a shot of one of the ice cubes just laying on the ground, zoomed in on it with my 24-70, and just got about a 10-second clip of an ice cube because I knew I would want to match cut it. How do I blend that, though, to make it look like it's falling? I had one of my friends who had a gray shirt on stand there so I could get a shot of his shirt just with some motion blur. So then it would match the player's gray sweatshirt and we can make it look like it's blurred out a little bit. So you see how it looks like something's dropping, something's happening in the background. And then the ice cube, I add some motion blur and I added some different Gaussian blur and effects just to make it blend a little bit more, to make it look like it's falling, a little bit of wobble, nothing too complicated. And as I'm looking at this, you see right here a little imperfection. I think that's just like me not blending two clips together well. Just noticing that now, nobody really cares, but I guess we found a little hiccup. That's what happens whenever you do an edit like this in 7 hours and don't have a ton of attention to detail. But you see the ice cube falling, that's the still shot, and then the ice cube bursts. Now the explosion right there is also from that RenderForest program, and you see that UA NERf logo that is also in there with the player. That player is talking in the background. There's some different sound bites throughout this video, as you heard whenever I showed it. The sound design isn't anything crazy, that's why we're not talking about that. But this right here is also from RenderForest, the explosion into the UA NERf. Now moving on, we got a couple more plays, got one more play. A one-handed catch, once again showing his name on screen with that same real-time slow down, speed up before you go to the next clip. And then we're showing some more gear, different teams. And now just kind of ripping through some different players to show events that happened throughout the past week and also show some different names. So this was during the Fastest Man Challenge. Show his name on screen. Got one of the best linemen in the country. The man who won the, I think it was the tug of war competition. A good catch. This is one of the best wide receivers in the country, showing the different names that people want to see. The plays, nothing really crazy happened on the back half of this edit. Same kind of thing where it's a speed up, slow down, speed up constantly to have the different plays and the different clips blend within one another. Then we got the classic battle of Team Ice and Team Fire, telling that story of how there's two teams, they're competing together, and there's some of the best players in the country. Showing some more players, some lines here, really telling the story in this back half. So the front half is very effect heavy. The back half is telling you what the heck is even happening at this event and what this video is for. Showing a couple different names right here. You see a quarterback with that hip mount, that Snorricam on. You can see the colors don't match perfectly here. I don't have a ton of time to color grade these videos, and also to match an R5 and a 360 camera is very, very difficult. I do notice that the 360 camera, as expected, does lack, but if you're in good lighting, it's better than a GoPro. It's better than a lot of those different action cams, but it's not perfect. You see it's even grainy up here. This is just during the day. Super bright sunlight. ISO as low as it can go, but I still love this unique perspective of a quarterback throwing. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. Then we got some players celebrating with some lines in the background, another big play. One line at the end about Team Fire, talking about Team Ice, and then another line of Team Ice, talking about Team Fire. So right there, that outro, that is RenderForest once again. Now, RenderForest is a tool that I found whenever I was searching through unique things to do for this event. I figured that there is so many AI tools. One of the simple AI tools that could exist is uploading a logo and having the AI tool animate it. Whether it's having pieces come in one at a time, making it three-dimensional, making it have different effects. I figured there had to be something. And on TikTok, just scrolling through, I looked up like AI logo effects, and I found RenderForest. Now, I paid $30 a month. I'm actually reminding myself now that I need to cancel it before I get renewed for it. But I uploaded the different logos that we had, the PNGs, and the UA NERf one was one that I had. So this logo at the end is all I started with. This one right here. that blue frozen UA Next logo, and I uploaded it into a fire animation on that RenderForest. Wait about an hour, maybe 30 minutes, and then it spits out this fire into ice. Now, the fact that it can do that, I didn't do anything. I didn't animate this. I uploaded it, and I clicked, oh, that's good. Okay, yes, enter, and you wait. That's a heck of a tool, and I highly recommend it. But you watch this outro, and it goes fire, ice to the ice. That ice logo is just what we had. This animation is what it gave us. RenderForest is one of the tools that really helped us throughout creating these assets for Under Armour. And it's not something I expected to use whenever I went there. I found it on site, was just ripping through different logos that I can make cool things out of. And if we rewind and look at the effects that we had, this fire one is a fire emoji put into RenderForest with the fire effect. Get that with some manipulation, opacity changes, keyframes, things like that. And then the ice one where it explodes, this is also RenderForest with that same logo that I showed you before. But it was from an ice cube exploding. This is what it looked like before I put any effects on it. This is what the fire one looked like. And this is what the outro looked like. So thank you for watching. I hope this helped you with some insight in some way. I don't think I'll be making a tutorial about that intro shot and the 3D elements, nor will I with the UA Next All America 3D. I just don't know enough about it, and there's probably going to be better ones online for you to look through and actually help you, because I probably cut some corners and don't do it the right way. But if I can give you one piece of advice, if you're trying to bake it into a shot that already exists, add the motion blur, add Gaussian blur, add grain, add imperfections to match it up with actual shots. If it goes from normal resolution from a camera to super ultra high sharpness and depth on the 3D element, it's not gonna fit and it's not gonna look good. And as always, I appreciate you watching. If you're not subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe, because I post videos every single week, shorts every single day. So appreciate your support. I'll see you soon. Peace.